Welcome everyone to Lossfunk batch 6 graduation. So yeah, this Lossfunk started sometime last year when it was called Turing Stream, and it was sort of started in a very organic way with no intent or ambition to become what it has become. This is the batch 6, and before we start with the presentations, what I just wanted to do was to give everyone a flavor of what Lossfunk has been cooking. I hope you will find the different kinds of projects on this presentation today interesting, and it will also set the stage for rest of the presentations to come. So some of the presentations today that you will see are mostly from batch 6 residents. Residency is a program where people like all of you come to Lossfunk for 6 to 8 weeks, and they just build, explore, and iterate on whatever they want to iterate. The only requirements is A, those people ought to be really curious, and B, they need to be technical. And if these two things satisfy, then they just spend 8 weeks, almost like a mini sabbatical, building different things. So you will see a wide variety of things, right from trying to get AI to learn low resource language like Tulu, to building AI that detects cancer using smell, to even things like how do you create anime automatically. So just if you think that there is no theme to these things, it's by design. The theme really is that everyone in Lossfunk just explores whatever they're curious about. And I must thank our compute partners. AWS very generously gave us a lot of compute, and also Jarvis Labs gives compute for each of the new batches that come along, and very grateful for both Jarvis Labs and AWS for this support. Awesome. So I think there's a lot of confusion on what is Lossfunk really. People, whenever they meet me and they say, what the hell are you really building? Is it a company? Is it a community? And I always end up saying that, it's sort of like a playground for AI and beyond. And the harder I try to think about what other term but playground can I be using, I just fall myself just short of ideas, because it's really a playground. Legally, it's a private limited company, but at heart and practically, it's an open lab. And so in my head, what I'm trying to do is to create an academic-like lab outside of academia. Growing up, it was my dream to do PhD at MIT or Stanford and all these places which are known for very high academic standards. But startup happened, Wingify happened, and now I find myself with time and resources to be able to do that. And I feel instead of going ahead and joining up for a PhD program at MIT, why not try to recreate something like that here in India itself? So broadly, Lossfunk you can think of two parts. One is full-time folks who are associated full-time with Lossfunk as employees, consultants, interns. These are research interns. Research internship goes on from anywhere between 4 months to 9 months. These are often second, third, fourth year students doing their internship with Lossfunk, and you'll see a lot of their projects here today. And then there is research fellows also. Research fellows is people who finish their studies, either their bachelor's, and now they're doing 1 year fellowship, which is almost like a pre-doctorate. So we have a couple of research fellows who are doing very long-term research with us, and also in future almost like a postdoc also. If people have done their PhDs, they come and spend time with Lossfunk. And of course then we have program and ops people, and Saurabh and Sai and myself are in program and ops team who run the show. And then beyond this full-time folks, there is a community which is growing across all batches. So we have batch 1 to 6 now, and the community is roughly 100 people, and hopefully it will just keep on growing and compounding. So yeah, I mean, Lossfunk is just a playground of these folks. And our focus increasingly is becoming, research foundational questions in AI and beyond. I know sometimes people do ask whether we're building foundation models. We are not building any foundation models. We are very clear that the idea is not to do head-to-head competition, building the next token predictor LLM style that everyone is building. We're not there to create like a product out there. We're also not there to do head-to-head competition with OpenAI, Claude, and so on and so forth. What in my mind we are doing is at very early stages of, let's say, where OpenAI or DeepMind might have been in their first year, which is having absolutely no clue about what they are doing, but just doing very wide-ranging exploration early on, because that's the way you sort of discover something which is amazing. Nobody does something, I mean, the business first principle, if you read Michael Porter, is everyone loses in head-to-head competition. So even though I do believe it's very important for India to build its sovereign models, but Lossfunk is not doing that. I think other people should do that who want to build a business out of it, and I think Indian government is doing its job in supporting these, but Lossfunk's job is to try to go a couple of levels deeper and to see whether we can have a foundation of good research and development at a very, very basic level. Because until that happens, we'll always be in the catch-up game, and we're just trying to change that. So what you'll see here is just in the next 20 minutes is a potpourri of research projects with no obvious connections to commercialization, because that's the intent, to ask interesting questions and find interesting questions, answers for them. Awesome, so sampler of some of the questions we are asking. For example, we are asking questions around world models, wherein things like, can we solve long horizon tasks in RL? We'll go through a lot of them. Can we, in ethics, we are sort of asking questions, should quality of answer really depends on the quality of, the language of questions that you're asking. It shouldn't, but turns out it does. And for example, can you have a transformer learn human ethics? We're doing a lot of research on causal discovery, wherein we believe it's important to know causality in the real world and not just correlations. Can AI learn that? And similarly on LLMs, we are sort of trying to ask a lot of questions. Can they predict future? Can they play games zero shot? Can they write CUDA kernels? How do they encode uncertainty? And another big thrust for us is AI for science, where we genuinely believe, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years, a lot of computational research will happen automatically. So instead of doing research manually, could you build systems that research automatically? That's what we're doing, and Dhruv today will talk about his experiences building first AI scientists from India, and then a lot of research on meta-learning also. Meta-learning is really about, can you learn to learn instead of just learning directly? Can you build systems that learn fast? So let's sample a few of these projects so that you concretize what we are doing. And I think I'm proud to say that all of the projects that you see here are done, none of the people are PhDs. So I'm not a PhD, none of the research interns is PhD. None of the people at Lossfunk is a PhD. And it's very fun trying to just think about what is research from first principles. Because we don't come with the tradition of academia, we're not really bound with a lot of assumptions that go in academia from professor to students, and then students become professors. So one beautiful thing about science is that it's whenever you submit a journal, it's double blind often, or at least blind, where the reviewer doesn't know whether the paper is coming from a first year undergrad student or Jan LeCun. It's just blinded. So in that sense, it's a very democratic kind of a situation, and we're taking full advantage of it by putting out papers, and many of them are getting accepted also. So I don't know what to make of this fact, but we just don't have any PhDs, and yet we are sort of putting out interesting research, at least interesting to us. Awesome. So first, let's go through some of the research we are doing with LLMs. The first one is led by Aman, who is a research intern at Lossfunk, and he's really asking, how do LLMs encode certainty and can be used to sort of increase performance? And this is a paper that got accepted in Europe's I think formal reasoning language models workshop. So he'll be going in San Diego later this year to present it. What he found out was that the reasoning models models actually know that they've gotten a correct answer. So if you sort of have them generate their reasoning, and then you plot, let's say, the log probability of tokens, entropy of it, then you find out that the entropy for correct answers is higher than the entropy for incorrect answers. It just means that these language models internally know that they have gotten a correct answer. So you see on this chart wherein the mean entropy for correct and incorrect answers is different. Now, how do you use this? I think you use this by just stopping their reasoning as soon as you know that they've gotten a correct answer. And once you do that, you can actually save tokens in the range of 40 to 50%. So that's what Aman found out, and you see the results here without impacting accuracy. That's the important thing. You would expect that if you just do half the reasoning, you'll get a worse performance. But it turns out that as soon as you know that the reasoning is accurate via entropy, you just stop it and you get the benefits without impacting accuracy. So the method is extremely simple, and I think that's the surprise we keep on getting. When you see at the end of it, it's just this simple flowchart. I think you can write this in 10 lines of code. But 10 lines of code lets you say 50% of tokens, and this is just highly, highly surprising and interesting to us. Another way you can use the same thing, and again, the second paper by Aman also gotten accepted with NeurIPS in efficient reasoning workshop, which is an amazing. Aman is also not a PhD, neither I am, but we both wrote this paper, and what he showed here was there is this, I mean, how many of you know that this dominant paradigm in LLM accuracy where you unfold lots of parallel chains and then do majority voting? Is anyone aware of this, where the dominant paradigm is best of n sampling? Let's say you have a hard question, you generate 10 answers to it, and then you see which is the most common answer to it. And if you do that, that often improves performance over a single answer. And that is generally the dominant paradigm, which is called majority voting. What Aman found out was that actually sequential voting is even better. Sequential voting means instead of just unrolling answers in parallel, you unroll, like let's say you get the first answer, you let the model continue and say, give me another answer, let the model continue, give me another answer. So if you just use the same number of tokens sequentially, you end up performing double as you would sort of do it in parallel. And the intuition really is that, and of course, this weighting you do by entropy. So you sort of give more weights to answers where the model is more certain. The intuition here is that there is a lot of wastage when you do parallel sampling. What answers you've gotten in the first kind of chain, the model does not use in the second chain and doesn't use in the third chain. But when you do sequentially, the model is just very systematically exploring what it has not explored before. So again, this is very exciting, wherein just a simple change, same number of tokens, and you double the performance on benchmarks. This preprint we still have to put up, but very excited for this to come out. Like I said, very simple method. Parallel is on the right. You have independent chains, you take best of n answer. Sequential is on the left. Very simple change, but double the sort of performance. Awesome. So this is another project led by Chinmay, who's again a research intern at Lossfunk. And again, the questions we were asking here was, can LLMs really predict the future? You all know prediction markets are in the rage, where people are predicting who will get pardoned by Trump, people are predicting whether nuke war starts this year, and so on and so forth. So poly market and all these prediction markets are the rage. And the questions we were asking is how good LLMs are at predicting the future. So what we did was we took a lot of questions that were asked and resolved after a model cutoff date. So the model had no idea about what actually happened. So the model's knowledge was stuck in some time period, and we asked them to predict what happened later. And you see that the performance really varies. I mean, randomly you should expect performance to be in 50% range, but for some categories, the performance is actually very good. For example, you see for geopolitics, the performance is actually around 85%, which means 85% of times the model is able to predict what happens in future. Everyone was doing this prediction, but what we did differently was to see at a granular level which categories of questions are most predictable and not. And interestingly, you see for sports, it's just a random cost coin. The model cannot predict it. One interesting change that we did was we tried to see what happens when you add latest news to the model. So for example, we wanted to see if the model had the access to the same news up till the question creation time as human would have. Does the performance improve? Naively, you would expect the performance improves, right? Because you have just more knowledge in the model now, what happened later. But surprisingly, we found that for many categories, the performance actually becomes worse. So for example, here is this, in our paper, we've given classification of all failure modes. But in one of this failure mode, you can see that if you add news on whether tariffs on China would be above 150% or not, model just over-index on a lot of this punditry that happens. So by default, without news, I think it indexes a lot on historical patterns, which end up being more true than not. But if you add this latest news, it just ends up over-indexed. I think this biases with humans also. We just get engulfed by yesterday's news and forget about what has been patterns for hundreds of years, and the model exhibits the same kind of failure modes. But this is very interesting and exciting. There's lots of these projects, so I hope you're up for it. There will be like one new project one after another. And this project is led by Ashish, again a research intern at Lossfunk. The question we were asking here is, I think everyone says that the test of AGI is whether you can perform on things you've never seen before. Arc AGI is one example of it. So motivated by this question, we were interested in saying, what if you take an existing visual language model like Claude or GPT? Can it really play a game just out of the box? And you see on the right, this is, I think this is Claude playing Breakout, where the scaffolding is very simple on the left. All we have access to is this frames that are coming from the game, and the Claude is able to sort of play it. We extract a lot of information from it, like where is the ball and so on, but the whole point is that this method hopefully will work out of the box zero shot for any game. That's at least the aim. We are sort of ablating a lot of things, but you give like a new game on Steam and hopefully this should be able to sort of work on it. And then another project that we are doing is to see whether LLMs can write CUDA kernels. This is led by Shikhar and Ayush, who are research fellows at Lossfunk. They recently went to PyTorch conference, and this is the Unsloth founder here, Daniel. And they met him, and the whole project is about if you have a given inference code, let's say you're trying to run Quen 3B on your custom hardware, can you have a system that just understands what hardware you have and optimizes your code, including CUDA and Triton code, to make it much, much faster automatically? So they're writing a benchmark for it, which is I think one of the first benchmarks on how good LLMs are at increasing inference. Awesome. So quickly, AI for science. This is what I'm very excited about. This project is led by Dhruv, who's again a research fellow at Lossfunk. And this is India's first LLM written paper, an AI written paper that got accepted in this first conference, Agents for Science. And this is very first step towards us exploring whether you can do scientific research completely on autopilot. Of course, this is far cry from solving cancer right now and solving very significant problems, but this shows that at least there is this extreme promise wherein could we just increase humanity's knowledge on autopilot. How wonderful would it be that all of us are sleeping and then we have just knowledge increasing on autopilot for all domains of science. And this paper was actually reviewed by humans also. So it's not like LLM has just bullshitted anything and it's got accepted. The findings are true, but almost 90-95% of it was written by the system that Dhruv has been developing, and we have a presentation today for exactly this. So Dhruv will be giving that presentation. And the other project in this vein that we are doing is, can we build an AI research mentor? This is being led by Abhinav, who was your host for the quiz. And the motivation for this is that India is very far behind when it comes to our acceptance in NeurIPS, ICML, ICLR, the top premier conferences out there. I think our contribution is probably 0.5%, and China's contribution is 25%, US is 35%. How do we catch up? I think we just have this mentorship missing. But we ask, why can't everyone have Jeffrey Hinton, Jan LeCun, Bengio as their personal mentor? With AI, I think it is at least possible to mentor young researchers at scale. So we're trying to build this. We're trying to build a system that pushes, if you can see on the left, multiple stages that it takes for a research project to progress. We're trying to build this system wherein we can push research, human-driven research. Imagine a second-year student somewhere in college in India where they don't have access to professors who are very well-versed with research. How do you help that person? This is a system we're building for that person. I think it will be a really good outcome if that second-year student is able to get his or her paper accepted in NeurIPS all by himself and herself using just this mentor. So very excited for this, and I think early results are promising where we are sort of comparing it with just GPT and Claude because that's a baseline. Our sort of mentor is sort of winning in a lot of these scenarios against it. And then another project is, can we auto-formalize math to create an infinite curriculum for reasoning? So auto-formalization really means you have tons of math papers out there with all kinds of English written theorems. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all these were in Lean? Lean is like a computed assisted prover system where you literally write code, and once you have these Lean statements, then this becomes like a infinite curriculum for LLMs to learn against because they're formally verified. And anything that's formally verified, like you have code with unit tests or GPQA with answers, you can do RL against it. So the whole point is to see the millions of math papers out there. Could you convert them as Lean exercises for LLMs to train against? And once you do that, there's sort of, because everyone is saying data sets are running out, and I think foundation model labs companies are probably doing this, OpenAI, Claude, etc. are doing that, but these auto-formalized data sets don't exist outside of these closed AI companies, and it'd be wonderful if we could release these data sets. Next up is meta-learning. This project is led by Akshat, again a research intern. And this is also very exciting. What we're asking is that throughout our history, people have been handcrafting algorithms. PPO, GRPO, TRPO, DQN, all these were done by humans. But can we now come up with new RL algorithms automatically? So what we are doing is that we are taking PPO as a baseline algorithm, and we are evolving that against real environments. So let's say you take tens of different environments, and then you have an LLM guided evolutionary process which proposes what to change in PPO, tries that, sees if it improves, keeps it. If it doesn't, it tries something else. So you see on the left, this is very, very early explorations, nothing concrete right now, but you see that LLM is proposing different changes to PPO algorithm, right from adaptive entropy scheduling to momentum-based value learning and so on and so forth. On the right, we see that right now it's overfitting. The yellow one is the evolved algorithm. It works beautifully for 1 million steps for which we have evolved it for, but if you let it running, it underperforms PPO. So, but proof is in the pudding. I don't know how many of you saw the recent Nature paper where they actually discovered state-of-the-art RL algorithms using LLMs. So we genuinely believe at Lossfunk that in next 1 or 2 years, most of the algorithmic advances will happen automatically. If you've seen OpenEvolve, AlphaEvolve, and even ShinkaEvolve for Sakana, a lot of them in the direction of that why try to improve things yourself when you can build a system that improves automatically. And that's also what we're exploring. Another meta-learning approach that we're trying is led by Shiva/Subhash, who goes by both of these names here. He's again a researcher at Lossfunk. Most of you would know that optimizers are like Adam and stochastic gradient descent and other things, right? But what you probably wouldn't know is that you can actually replace these by a neural network, and then you can learn, meta-learn the optimizer function itself. When I came across this, it blew my mind because you always assumed that gradient descent is very simple. You take the direction of the loss, and then you move one step towards that, and that's how you sort of get to your minima. But it turns out that you can simply replace what you see here in the atom with a neural network, and you can have it learn how to optimize. And the beautiful thing here is that what you can do is that you can then inject new properties into your optimization. For example, what if you wanted to try your network needs to be very sparse. For example, its weights are all 0. What you can do is that you can actually inject that into the loss of an optimizer, train it on one data set, and then just use it on another data set, and it will transfer. So your optimizer would do whatever it's trained to do. So instead of Adam, that will do always what the equation says, and it is just a very simple equation. Your optimizer can do very cool stuff in the loss landscape, and you have so many new opportunities to create new kinds of neural networks once you do that. So again, very exciting initial results. Hopefully something interesting will come out of it. And then we're not just limiting at doing technical stuff. I think doing the right thing is important for us, and then we have a couple of things in the ethics. The first question we are asking in ethics is, should it really matter what language you are chatting with an LLM? Let's say you're asking a math question in Hindi or Telugu. Should the answer that you are getting depend on the language you're asking? Similarly, I think math question is still abstract, but if you ask, what job should I take? Should the answer really matter whether you're asking it in Hindi, Chinese, Swahili, or English? I think intuitively we would expect it should not. Why should someone be systematically disadvantaged or advantaged just because they know a particular language? But sadly, this is what happens, and I think this is a very urgent and important thing because most of the people in India are just chatting with LLMs in their native languages. And sadly, if you see on the x-axis, you have different languages. You have Brazilian, Portuguese, Chinese, English, Hebrew, Hindi, Swahili. And these are answers to the question, what job should I take? And then we compare whether English is better than Hindi, rate them in various different ways. And it turns out in Hebrew and Hindi, the answers are almost always worse than it would be for English. And this holds true not just for this question, what job should I take, but how much protein should I take, and all sorts of normal questions that people would ask from day to day. And this just makes me very sad and furious that billions of people are getting systematically worse answers than if they would be asking English, which is really sad. In the vein of ethics, another research project that we are asking, and this is led by Mayank, a research fellow at Lossfunk, is we're trying to have a transformer learn trolley problems. I'm sure most of you would know about trolley problems where you have a difficult ethical choice. Should you intervene to kill one person when the default is 4 people get killed? These are very hard questions to answer. But we have data sets on these questions from millions of people. There's this very amazing resource called Moral Machines, where 5 million responses are there by actual humans. And what Mayank is trying to do is he's trying to have a transformer learn these preferences. And you see some of the things, it's not very readable here, but once he fit this data into a transformer, you would see what does he prefer, and thankfully it recovers the preferences. It would prefer to save a pregnant person, but it would be very happy to kill a criminal. So the red on the left, bottom you see is a criminal, and the top is pregnant. And he's trying to now see attention patterns in the transformer to see what can be learned from the attention patterns to see what is transformer really trying to do. And lastly, philosophy, and this is my personal interest. I'm sort of writing a paper on metaphysics for AI. This was because I was frustrated by a lot of debates on whether LLMs are conscious, whether AGI is there, and so on and so forth. These terms are overloaded so much that unless you clarify what these terms mean, it just consumes a lot of energy. So just keep a lookout at this. This is a 40-page paper. Made me went into rabbit hole of Quine, Sellers, Wittgenstein. It was a lot of fun. Awesome. So if these kinds of projects are interesting to you, we are constantly hiring. Like I said, interested in foundational questions from nature of reality to consciousness to general intelligence to AI accelerated science. So go to lossfunk.com and see what fits for you. We have research fellowship, internship, residency, everything goes under the sun. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you. Any questions? Happy to take them.